Well, hey, thanks for sticking around. We're really glad that you were with us today. And thanks for sending in some questions. We got some good ones, kind of a little bit of a variety here. So the first one is one that I guess I'll answer, which is, was Jesus circumcised? Right, we talked a lot about Jesus being in the flesh. That's definitely part of being in the flesh.
Is he missing part of his flesh? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, we were going there, right? The question's taking us there. So, almost certainly Jesus was circumcised. I don't recall necessarily a place where it specifically mentions that. But it would have been.
His parents are Jews. He was in the temple. He was circumcised. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been unthinkable that he wasn't. So, yeah. Here's another question: and Seth, maybe you can take this. Is how do you explain that Jesus is God if Jesus is the Son of God?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Father and Son are describing the relationship between Jesus and the Father, Jesus and God. So the way that he relates to the other person in the Trinity is through the Father-Son relationship. So it's not derivative. It's not that there was the Father and then there became the Son. But even the way that in the old creeds talk about it is that the Son is eternally generated of the Father, meaning it's not like a moment in time he became God's Son, but he has always and eternally been relating to the Father as the Son. So that's been an eternal relationship.
Okay. If you have a follow-up, I probably can't answer it because I won't get it, but I think that's a great question. Here's another one for you, Seth. We were talking about gender identities related to Docetism. Are there books about gender identity that you would recommend?
Yeah, it probably depends, I would say, on if you're thinking more theoretical and you want to interact with it like on a worldview level. If that's the case, then Love Thy Body by a woman named Nancy Pearcey is the best book. About some of what we talked about in the service today. If you want to talk like more politically, there's a great book called When Harry Became Sally by a guy named Ryan Anderson, who's actually a Catholic ethicist, and that's kind of where I go from there. Yeah. Those two different things.
Yeah. Any other places you would go that aren't necessarily books, but like just good resources or?
I would honestly look at our membership document. It's a pretty good thing in the way that looks out, and you can find that online. And there's a whole section on there that kind of summarizes some of the stuff, some scriptures to look at. Yeah. And it's kind of a good one-page description of some of that stuff plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's the last question. Is somebody asked, in one of the songs at the beginning of the service, one of the lyrics was, "When you fall, we fall to our knees." What does it mean for God to fall? And so that's a good question. The song was Spirit of the Living God, which I think is by Vertical Worship. And I think there it's talking about God falling, that the Spirit is falling down on his people. You sort of see this in the baptism of Jesus, where the Spirit of God was descending on Jesus like a dove. You see this in Acts 2 with the Spirit falling on that early church, appearing as kind of tongues of fire, and there's this kind of descent of the Spirit that seems to happen. And so I think that's what that song's talking about, is that when God, the Spirit, falls on us, oftentimes we fall to our knees. Obviously that's could be literal, right? I saw somebody in one of the services today actually falling down to their knees and praising God from there. But whether that means that that's how we have to sing it or not, that's the posture of our heart, is that when God's Spirit falls, we surrender, we worship, we adore. So that's what that was about. Anything you would add to any of those questions?
No, just the fact that God is omnipresent. Yeah. So in a sense, he's always here. But throughout Scripture, there are times when he especially shows up in his personal blessed presence. And so that's kind of what we're asking for. It's like, we know you're everywhere, but please show up in a powerful, transformative way now. Yeah. And so that's what we're asking for in that song.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's it for today. Thanks again for sticking around and for tuning in today. We love you, we miss you, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, miss you guys. Love you all.